listening to Hard Talk Grenada via www.hardtalkgrenada.com.
My enemies' walls are bound to crumble, and to the floor their spears will fall. I've been made and sealed with love, but time to battle, I'll fight them all. I felt the whips and remember chains with my soul.
An opportunity to start, grow, build, and empower young people with a business idea between the ages
and to
of
the floor their spears will fall. I've been made and sealed with love, but time to battle, I'll fight them all. I felt the whips and remember chains, but my soul has been forged by my father's flames. Fight your fears and heal your pain, and victory will be in your name.
I used to be weak, but I'm not weak no more. I found the strength of my ancestors deep down in my African core. I used to be frightened, I'm not afraid no more. The Father blessed me with the heart of a lion and a warrior soul. So no weapon that form against I shall not prevail. And no man that rise against I, that war they shall never win. Cause I will conquer, oh I will conquer, yes I will conquer, conquer them. Come on, let's conquer, oh I will conquer, rise up and conquer, conquer them.
Tell them no retreat, no surrender. I shall fight till the end of days. I was born as a Makai warrior, and the Almighty God my blade. Fire burn all Satan carrier. Father loose all shackles and chain. This morning first thing as I wake up, King David told Sam to the brain. Don't let your courage go down, keep it up. And if your heart rip up and stitch it up, don't let your faith them fall, pick it up. When my cup was empty, God fill it up. Don't take the devil contract, rip it up. And if your bad mind people to go meet it up, pass me the Congo drum and let me beat it up. God on my side, me no give it
So
up.
no weapon that form against I shall not prevail. And no man that rise against I, that war they shall never win. Because I will conquer, oh I will conquer, yes I will conquer, conquer them. Come on, let's conquer, oh I will conquer, rise up and conquer, conquer them.
Thank you, Father. I want to say thank you, Lord. You're everything, Father. Thank you. Father, you alone shall guide me. No man shall lead my path. In the wind I hear your quiet whispers, and you heal my broken heart. Even some of my friends turn enemies, and they pray for right to feel. And remember you gave us your only begotten son, but we gave him the wound of flesh. Send down your warriors with the hello. They carry down to the end of days. No matter how the devil try trick me, unto you my soul I will give. Father, I know this time is coming. I can see the high tide raise. Without you there is no other. Could it be that we decide?
No weapon that form against I shall not prevail. And no man that rise against I, that war they shall never win. Because I will conquer, oh I will conquer, yes I will conquer, conquer them. Come on, let's conquer, oh I will conquer, rise up and conquer, conquer them.
I am a man. I am a champion. I am a warrior. So who are you to tell me that I cannot make? Who are you to tell me that I am not the greatest thing that God ever created?
Good morning, Grenada, Carriacou, and PT Martinique. You're listening to Hard Talk Grenada. A very special good morning to those of you joining us on the various radio stations, 97.5 CitysoundFM, 89.5 CRFM, 91.9 and 91.5 RealFM Radio, 92.9 Sister Al Radio out there in Brooklyn, New York, and of course, 94... I'm sorry? Lord, in Hillsborough, Carriacou, and 94.9 in Brooklyn, New York. Mr. Bola, I have me confused this morning. And with me in studio, I have none other than my co-host, Mr. Roland Bola. Good morning, Mr. Bola.
Good morning, Miss Duncan. And I was not attempting to confuse you. I was just trying to correct you.
You have me confused that made you have to correct me in the first place.
That's strange, but stranger things in life has happened. Good morning to our listeners out there. A very warm and pleasant Monday morning to you. Really do hope that you had a fantastic weekend, that everything that you attempted to do or to accomplish was at least accomplished with some level of success. For those of us who are coming out of the weekend still a little bit tired, not fully rejuvenated, well, I say to you, it's Monday, the Monday moods are on, but we got to do what we got to do. You got to get up, stand up, and keep on pushing and fighting for what you want. And what you got to do, the boss ain't going to pay you if you're just sitting around. He might quicker fire you. So come on, put a little pep into your step. Get the energy back. Get the feeling. Forget whatever disappointment you had over the weekend with whoever. Was it your mother, your father, your boyfriend, your husband, your children, whoever it was. Drop it. It's a new day. It's a new week. And let's just get moving. Keep in a positive mindset. I really hope that Miss Duncan would not be further confused and so blame me for having her own mind being confuffled.
You're easy to blame,
Yeah, well, that's okay. I'm used to that. Not only knowing that, I am very, very used to that. But be that as it may, I, welcome you to as a listener to Hard Talk. If you're on the live, we are grateful to have you. Last Friday, coming down to the close of the weekend, should have been the funeral of the late the Honorable Elvin Nimrod. There had to be a postponement, and our understanding is that one of his sons, who traveled from outside of Grenada, I think from the United States, someone said to me he apparently missed his flight the first time he was supposed to leave the U.S., and as a result got a flight to Grenada a couple of days later, and having to go into quarantine. His quarantine period was still on Friday, so a postponement of the funeral was to accommodate him. My understanding over the weekend is that he should have been tested sometime Saturday, Sunday, or today. I'm not sure which day because I wasn't told which day. And that once that result is a negative, then by today he should be released from quarantine.
Well, I think I read on the government released a statement, and I think in that statement it said that they were all medically cleared already.
Okay.
They were all medically
Well,
cleared.
I learned that on Saturday, so, like I'm saying, I wasn't sure if it was Saturday, Sunday, or today, whichever day they would have been tested. And so, as a result, there are plans, and I think everything up until this morning, from what I've learned, is looking towards the funeral officially taking place tomorrow, God's willing.
Yeah.
So with that little hiccup there, because of the quarantine of the son, we're happy that things are over and have ended well, and so they're heading now to Elvin Nimrod.
Yes, his funeral.
Good son. Lost.
Of course.
So,
they say the good ones go first.
Well, maybe that's why you and I are still around.
At all. I don't put me in that at all.
Because
my time has not yet come.
No, well, whenever your time is here, there's no stopping it.
My time has not yet come.
You know, the late great Peter McIntosh out of Jamaica, who used to be a member of the Whalers, along with Robert Nesta Marley, and Bonnie Wheeler, who only passed away and was buried the earlier part of this month. He was the last of the leading or the last of the performing Whalers that was still alive, Bonnie Wheeler. His proper name is Bonnie Livingston, though, and let's see, it's been known throughout Jamaica and the rest of the world as Bonnie Wheeler. But Peter Tosh, who died many years ago, have this song. Where you gonna run to? Don't press a man. You know this one?
Nah.
Don't press a man. Where you got to run to?
I feel like I have a segment
you
just for
you could run to the rock. The rock will be running to. That's a popular song. I don't know how you don't know it. Yes, it's old school, but and he was talking about when death comes your way. As a dung press, as a man, and in local parlance, you commonly refer to people who take advantage of others, who are not as benevolent as they should be, as dung pressers. So he has this song about dung presser, man, where you going to run to. Meaning when death comes for you, when the Father is ready for you, where you going to run to? You can't run to the rock, because the rock will be running too. Everywhere you go. So I'm just using that song to further emphasize to you that when your time comes, as you said, your time hasn't come yet, and that I accept and understand and I agree with you 120%. Because when your time comes, where you going to run to? Who you going to run to? Can't run to no one. You can't run from it. It's going to catch you. It's going to catch up with you. So, friends, our day would soon come, except those of us who have been granted length of days may still be around for the end of days.
Maybe.
So.
Guys, it is Monday, and we are going to open the lines very early this morning because last week was a kind of short week. There was a lot happening last week, and we haven't heard much from our people, and we like hearing from our people. We like hearing from our callers. We like to hear the views and opinions of the people out there who are listening, because that is important, and that helps to guide conversation. But this morning, Mr. Bola, I want us to touch quickly on the industrial climate. That's what they call it now, the industrial climate within the country. More so the current situation as it relates to public servants and the 4% increase deferral. To a later date. And I feel like we need to continue speaking about it because some people still have not grasped what it is all about. Some people still have not understood, whether it's for lack of understanding or lack of explanation or proper explanation, that they don't really grasp what is happening and how it is happening and what are the intricate details as it surrounds this 4% deferral. But also I want to hit on a very touchy topic, and that is that of student teachers when they get into the industrial action and the informing of parents and so on what is happening and the status of their children as they go to school and so on, because it's a very touchy topic, Mr. Bola, and I'll try to address it not just as a parent but also as someone on the outside looking in, but try to be as objective as possible.
I want you to do more than trying.
I guess that's where you're going to come in. You are my check and balance.
No. I'm telling you very early, I want you to do more than trying to be objective.
I will be objective.
I want you to be objective.
Okay. I will be objective.
Because this is what we are about. Objectivity, truth, and facts.
Absolutely.
Right. So
I agree.
Be very objective.
Now, for the people who don't understand what the 4% increase is all about, in 2018,
2019, the negotiations was concluded.
It was concluded. So they negotiated through 2018 to conclude that in 2020, they would begin receiving a 4% increase. Now, this is something that is negotiated for every 3 years, correct?
The negotiating cycle is generally 3 years between government and the trade unions.
Right. So they were just coming off of, and they were actually just coming off of an increase, meaning that they just got, how much was it? It was 3, 3, and 4.
And 4. In 2019, they received 4%. 2017, 2018. 2017, January, 3% increase. 2018, in January of 2018, 3%. January of 2019, 4%.
4%.
And then they negotiated or concluded in 2019 for a further 3 years arrangement, which started in 2020. And that was for 12% over the 3 years, 4% in 2020, 4% in 2021, and 4% in 2022.
Right. So that was negotiated for in good faith, right? Because of course, government looking at their revenue collection or the projections of what they were expected to collect and so on, they saw that this was a possibility, that they were able to meet this increase. Now remember, this 4% is not a one-off payment. It's not, well, I pay you 4% in January, so when January done, I ain't have to pay you 4% until next year, January again. That's not how it works. It's 4% on the current salary for the full year of 2020. Then an additional 4% added to the 4% that they received on their salary. And then an additional 4% the following year, right? To take them to the 12%. So I want people to understand it's not just a one-off payment. They get paid 4% in January and you forget about that, and then they had to get 4% again in January of the following year and you forget about that. It's something that is compounded, basically. Now, I've heard comments of people saying, oh, well, and we've gone through the Grenlec thing, and I really don't want to go back or touch on that, although that is an explanation that is being given. They're buying street lights. And
that's something that is being used.
Is used. Conveniently. And it's very unfortunate that the people who are very educated and who understand the situation are willfully misleading people who are not so au fait with these kind of matters, because I looked at a very prominent NDC activist under the post of a journalist indicating that, oh, well, they can't pay the teachers the 4%, but they could buy new traffic lights and they could buy back Grenlec. And I said that was a very unfortunate post, because from that individual, who I know for sure knows exactly, or at least should. Let me not say I know for sure. I think I'm giving him too much credit. Who I hope understands how a country is run, because, I mean, he ran for office. So we would hope that he understands or has little knowledge of how you run a country's budget.
Ms. Duncan, you are on a good wicket, I believe. Doing well, and I hate to pitching, but I just want to establish that fact as you continue. Hold your thought, because having made the point that you believe the person is intelligent enough and should know, you may be very, very, very correct with that. But we have to establish, as we have done before, that when people take a certain route or they behave in a certain way, that they speak certain words or they say things that you believe they should know better and that they can say better, and in fact they can speak the truth because they know what the truth is, but they are not doing it. We oftentimes tend to believe, well, he ain't well or she ain't well, and many times people do what they do for a reason and with a purpose in mind. And it doesn't mean most of the time that they are unaware of what the facts are, or that they are unable to explain the facts, or that they did misunderstand the facts. They would like to put us, the unsuspecting public, in a position where we become confused. So they do and say certain things on purpose. So the gentleman or woman or the individual you're making reference to may well be doing it because it suits their cause to say it the way they're saying it, to sell it the way they're selling it. It makes and puts them in the position where they would like to be when they have people confused about the whole issue of the salary increase. And the reason why the government has came forward and asked for a deferral to a later date to pay it.
Absolutely. And you're absolutely correct. And I'm glad you brought up that point, because people need to understand that. You know, people are saying, oh, well, look, the opposition is saying this, and the opposition forces, because they're not the actual opposition. But the opposition forces is saying this and they're saying that and they're calling them out on their nonsense and so on. And what the question people need to pose is, can you prove that the government is able to pay? Can you prove that we are in a situation where if we do this, we are not putting ourselves further back economically? Can you prove or can you say that if you are in office now, sitting in the seat of government, that you would not do the exact same thing with the knowledge that you have?
Well, maybe not.
Maybe not.
Because the National Democratic Congress, who was in state power during 2008 to 2013, has proven to us time and time again that one, they were never interested or never attempted to give a salary increase to the public servants. Two, they consistently paid the public servants late, way after the mountain. Three, they had bloated the service with their friends and relatives, nepotism taking place with high salaries, that the government during that period was spending $27 million more on a monthly basis than what they were collecting. Four, in order to meet the salary and wages of the people, instead of trying to balance the act and balance the budget, as we would say, they went about selling assets, some of which wasn't even belonging and under the ownership of government, to raise money month by month to pay those salaries. So saying that if they were in government today with the same economic woes that we are having, that they would have done the same thing, I am not sure that is what would have happened. Because maybe one, they would not have to pay a 4%. Because they never showed that they had interest in paying, giving salary increases. They weren't even paying increments, which is a standard thing that you should do on an annual basis, right? They were deducting the NIS contribution from the workers, money that they were getting late every month, and still did not pay to the NIS. It took the NNP, when they came back into office in 2013, to offset all of these balances for the 5 years that the NDC was in office, to pay the NIS. The workers' contribution, not even the government part, they weren't paying it. They were deducting it from the workers' salary and still not paying it into the NIS. So I'm not absolutely sure, like you are, that if it was the NDC in office today, that they would have probably offered the same thing. Because the situation might have been quite the opposite. In fact, they might have been retrenching workers because they weren't able to pay them. And pay them on time with the resources. They weren't able to manage the economy in such a way that they had it balanced in such a way that you can meet all of the general commitments that government had to meet. Not necessarily the specific ones, but general in terms of wages and salaries, utility bills, and these kind of things. The what they call the recurring,
recurrent expenditure.
The recurrent expenditures. You're
absolutely right. Now, Mr. Bona, it pains me to wonder what really is, and I think someone needs to re-identify what the purpose of a union really is. Is it only to fight for the rights of workers? Or is it within fighting for their rights, educating them on matters that are important to them? So, for example, you have teachers and public servants too, at a lesser extent, who still don't understand what is happening as it relates to revenue collection versus a 4% increase versus they're not taking the money from us. They're just saying we can't get it now. They're making it sound as if they're taking the 4% away from them. But in retrospect, that is not what is happening, you know. They are just saying to them, listen, it's like, Mr. Bola, if I have $100 for you and I'm saying to you, Mr. Bola, I know I have $100 for you. But right now, my pocket really cannot afford at this current time to give you that $100. Can you give me 3 months and let's see if I'm able to pay that $100 to you? But I know it's your $100 and I know you have to get it. I am legally bound to give you your $100 bill. There is nothing saying that I can take that $100 away from you legally. It's signed, sealed, and waiting to be delivered once it's available.
You were going to say signed, sealed, and delivered, you know.
Signed, sealed, and waiting to be delivered as soon as it becomes available. That is simply what government is trying to say to the public servants.
Well, they are saying it, not trying. They're saying it. And I'm absolutely glad that you don't owe me $100 because, Lord, have mercy. I know how to see you. So, never come to me. No, I ain't going to lend you money even if I have it. I don't have money. I can't afford it. But even if I do. But there are two things. And I may sound a little bit controversial, but I am being as objective
as possible.
As it's possible. Now, in truth and in fact, the workers or the unions have one point in that we have a signed agreement. Mm-hmm. And that is true.
Yes.
It is factual that negotiations with government concluded in 2019 and they all signed on the dotted line saying, look, 2020 January, the workers that we represent are supposed to get a 4% increase. Mm-hmm. January 2021, they should get another 4% increase. January 2022, they're supposed to get another 4% increase. So that is established as a fact.
Right.
And precedent has been set in that in 2020, they did get the 4% as promised, as signed for in January. So that is something we can't take away. We can't throw that off the equation.
Right.
So they have a signed agreement which the government is supposed to uphold. But here's what. Who in Grenada, who in the world doesn't know and doesn't understand what has happened as a result of COVID-19, as a result of the pandemic, where most countries around the world had, at one period or the next, had to close their borders, had to go into lockdown to safeguard their population, couldn't afford for people to go out to work, couldn't save and accept the frontline people like the nurses and doctors, the medical staff, and of course the security officers, police and people like that. Everyone else was ordered to stay home, buckle down, don't get out of your house, supermarkets closed, public transportation not operating, all of those things. We experienced it, we saw it, we knew it, not only in Grenada, but the world over. Not only in this region, but the world over. Mm-hmm. So as a result of that, the government has said and approached the union saying, look, based on what has happened, and prior to that, prior to the approach, the government made it public that as a result of the present pandemic, the health situation the world over, because even when Grenada as a nation did not have much active COVID patients on RealFM, its neighbors had it. The international community had it. So even when we felt that we were free to move around and do what, other countries were on lockdown. Yeah. The borders were still closed. They are our trading partners. We couldn't sell to them or ship anything to them, and they couldn't ship to us likewise, because there was no movements happening. So it was not a case where just Grenada isolatedly, you're doing well, you're controlling the COVID well, so you're good. Yes, that may have been a factor, but our trading partners and everyone else we're dealing with was not in the same position like us. Yeah. So it still stifled our economy. And the government did announce at one time that they were only collecting about 40% of what was targeted, what was expected, what they hoped to have. Mm-hmm. over time it continued to improve. I remember when they said it was about 50%, and I think they went up at one time. The last update was about, they were collecting about 60%, right? So with all of that, understanding that your economy has grown or regressed by 12%, it means whatever point you was here, because we were having over the last 5 or 6 years an economic growth annually of 3.5 to 4%.
Yeah.
Annually, we were moving. We were on a trajectory upwards in terms of our economic growth.
Yeah.
And when the negotiations was held in 2019, it was because of those projections.
Absolutely.
And it was because of how the economy was operating and performing prior to 2019 and the projections from 2019 upwards, that the government felt comfortable that we can pay 12% over the next 3 years to our public servants.
Right.
4% in 2020, 4% in 2021, and 4% in 2022.
Right.
But you had something that happened, right? Like you are traveling, you're traversing from St. George's to Grenville, and you're confident, and you tell the people waiting for you in 45 minutes, I'll be in Grenville because my vehicle is good, it's performing well, the road is okay, and I am confident because I've done it the day before and I've done it the previous day, so I know I can do it now again. In 45 minutes, I'll be in Grenville, so you can wait.
Right.
And you're heading up, and bam, you get to one point where a huge boulder, a rock, fell down in the road, blocking all traffic. No one can go up or down. So you can do two things now. That's the choice you have. Pack up and wait until some heavy piece of machinery can come on site and remove that boulder. Or if there's an alternative route, you can take it. But either way, you would be delayed.
Yeah.
Because if you have to turn and go around the western coast to get to Grenville or the eastern coast through St. David's, it will take more than the 45 minutes in which you normally would do it.
Right.
Because now you're halfway up and you have to turn and come halfway down and then take a completely new route, which is even longer than the one you were taking.
Yeah.
So equate what we're talking about to that. Everything was set and moving forward. And government was very confident we can do it and we will make it as it is. But the big stone came down. COVID came.
Yeah.
Affected what was happening. And instead, and it didn't just cause you not to collect, but it pulled you way back down the line, 12% behind.
Yeah.
So the government said, this is the situation. As a result, we are not able to implement that 4% increase that is due to you, that we have signed and agreed to give to you.
But Mr. Bola, let me just pause you there for a moment. Now, even though, because we remember we negotiated for, and that's what they're not talking about. We negotiated for 2020, 21, 2022. That's the 12%. In 2020, Mr. Bola, when our country was on lockdown and we were receiving 40% revenue, public servants got their 4% increase.
Yeah.
When they were at home, some of them working from home, some of them could not perform their duties at home. They were receiving their full salaries inclusive of that 4%.
Yeah, but the only little difference is that it was implemented in January.
And we went on lockdown in March. Now, government didn't say, okay, well, we implemented our 4% in January, and we having a difficult time paying it. So can you, now we are in June and we real behind, can you give us a little deferral until, They didn't say that because they understood that it was signed and it was sealed and they had already started paying.
They implemented it, and government couldn't say to them, well, look, we are now in a hard time, so we can't pay the 4%. What government could have said, if it became necessary, was, look, because of the hardship we're going through, the economic pressure, the lack of revenue collection, we may have to cut salaries by X amount.
By X amount.
Whether it was by 4% or 10% or 20%, as was done in some countries. There are many countries where salary of the public servants
Was cut.
Was slashed.
Absolutely.
There are countries where people were given promissory notes
And bonds.
and bonds to be paid later down in the year.
Yeah.
So it would not have affected the 4% per se. But we didn't get to that. We were still fortunate. And you are very correct that people got their salaries and wages on a timely basis, even though many of them were at home. Some worked from home, some idle at home because they couldn't work from home based on what they had to perform, but they were paid. Right? So moving forward, the government said, this is the situation. So we can't implement now. So we seek a deferral. And to the credit of the Public Workers Union, my understanding is that they agreed for the deferral and said, well, we can defer for 6 months.
But
by June, end of June, July, thereabout, we would like to have the 4% implemented. But that comes with also some other conditions.
Yes.
And the conditions was laid out. And when calculated into dollars and cents, the conditions that the government had to meet in order for the deferral, it far outstripped, it surpassed what the increase of $1.3 million a month will be.
And that was a very strategic move. And I say that because they knew, they had to have known. Because you must know, okay, this is my base, this is my membership, this is how much I collect on a yearly basis or on a monthly basis. So this means that I have X amount of members. So they know how many members they have. They should, and I as I say, I want to be as objective as possible. They should know how many of their members are permanent.
But they have members registration.
Right. So they should know how many are permanent in the system, how many are on contract, and so on. And they knew. They probably sat down and calculated dollars and cents, the figure that it would come up to if government were to regularize all temporary workers, because that is what they had asked for. They had asked that government regularize all of their temporary workers if they were to give that agreement for the deferral for 6 months, not even for the year, for 6 months, or not even indefinitely until they figure out how things are going to work. They said 6 months, but we want you to regularize our workers. Now, I don't believe, or I would hate to believe that they went in blindly and said this. They would have sat and done the dollar and figure calculation of how much it would be. So they knew that putting this to government was a sure no, because it would outreach the 1.3 million monthly that government would have to pay on salaries and wages. Now, I say that's a very strategic move.
Well, of course, because as a negotiating partner on behalf of your people, whether you are a lawyer, a negotiator, a trade unionist, whatever, you must put forward on the table things that are rational, one, but also what will put you in a stronger position to continue with your bargaining. Everyone wants to have the upper hand. Yes. It is the duty of government to try as much as possible, while they have a moral responsibility to satisfy the people of the country, to provide employment for them, and to pay them fair and well enough for them to be able to survive. Yeah. It is also the interest of government to keep expenditure as low as possible so that you can invest in capital projects.
But also, it's also the job of the union, Mr. Bola, not just to ensure that workers have good working conditions and that they get equitable pay and all of that, but also to ensure job security.
Well,
now,
yes, that should be.
How can you, because I know in 2008 to 2013, that was one of the grounds in which they said, okay, fine, we want to ensure that our workers stay working. So we're going to defer all increases. We're going to not defer, forego. Defer it means they go pay at a later date. We are going to forego, meaning we in business about that. We ain't talking about that right now. What we're talking about is job security. We want to make sure that our workers keep working, that money keeps flowing in their pockets. So we are going to forego any negotiations as it relates to increases and increments and all of that. We're going to give you all an easy ride. And government in 2008 to 2013 got that easy ride and still couldn't pay salary and wages on time, and still did not pay the workers NIS. But that same political party is the same mouthpiece that is saying to the unions, fight for what is yours.
I don't know that there is a fight. There really isn't and shouldn't be a fight. I think it is a sit down that is needed. Again, they have done it and tried it before. And we stop and strip the politics from the negotiations. Strip the politics. Because I believe what is influencing a lot of what we're seeing happening in this present industrial climate, as you referred to it, it is more of people venting the difference or the dislike for an individual or individuals more than dealing with the real issue at hand. And the real issue at hand is that the government is saying at this time it is extremely difficult to the point of impossibility to implement the 4% and make it sustainable. It's not just about implementing it. It's not just about playing it 1 month. It's about sustaining it over the period of time. And the government had offered as much as it can by saying to the unions, listen, while we can't pay you, you don't have to take our word for granted. We are proposing that quarterly, every 3 months, that we do an internal audit of where we are, what we've collected, what we've spent, and the areas in which the expenditure went, and you can then examine it. You can bring your own independent assessors. So, they can look at the figures, they can do their own assessment on your behalf, and inform you. So you don't have to take what the government accountants say. You don't have to take for granted what the auditors for government say. But you can have your independent accountants and auditors audit the figures that government have on their books and relate to you as the trade union what their thought process is, what they believe. Yes, things have improved and improved to the point where they believe now that government is in a position to pay, or have not improved sufficiently. They are the ones to advise you. Government will tell you, but when you have a second opinion and an independent second opinion, it makes the matter easier. So yes, they have a right to. It is their money.
And they will get it.
Contractual arrangement. And added to that, let's look at the government side now. It is not in the interest of government. It is not going to benefit government for not paying the 4% now. It has to be that they really aren't able to. Because the longer it is deferred for, the greater the burden becomes for the government down the line. And here are the reasons why. You have not implemented in January. The last I heard, because I heard one of the union members, I think it's the first vice president or whatever, and I hope that's the correct position that person was ranting and waving. Name a date, give us a date, because you have left it open-ended. You didn't say a date. So I learned that there was some sort of consultation thereafter, and the government concluded December. Told them, look, that's the date we can give. If things get better before that, we will implement. But based on our projections and how the economy is looking at the rate of growth and collections and what we're looking forward to, maybe
we don't
December.
See it before then.
Well, I don't know how the unions are dealing with that, because I don't hear them making
saying anything about it.
Much reference to it, but they were asking for a date and they got a date. And now, I was talking about why it is not in government's interest. Because for every month that you do not pay upfront, it means that you are accumulating what they call a back pay. What we commonly call back pay, or retroactive payment.
Right.
Making the payment back from the time you should have implemented. Right. So if 12 months should pass without that being implemented, at the end of it, if government then say, well, we can pay now, you also have to find that lump sum to go back from January 2021 up to December 2021, assuming that it's a full year, and pay every single servant what that increase should have been month by month. So you calculate what they were supposed to get for the month in that increase, $100, $80, and you go 80 by 12 or 100 by 12 or 150 by 12. So they have to get that as a lump sum.
As a lump sum.
Right? But on top of that, you still have to implement the 4%.
For the January coming.
Well, not just for the January coming, that you did not implement in the January past.
Yeah.
And because you have a signed agreement for the January coming in 2022, you also have to implement that. So in other words, you can't implement 4 now, but come January 2022, if we survive to reach that time, you will have to implement for the January pass
and then start
and the
negotiating
January
again.
come. So that is 8% now. And pay the retroactive payment, what we commonly call back pay. And I believe I heard in some release sometime that retroactive pay is coming also with an interest.
With an interest, yes.
I think there was some sort of agreement, negotiations, whatever, with the union, that there must be an increase. So, in other words, government is not in a better position
by not paying now.
Yeah. Right? It would have been far better for the government if they had the money and could pay it now. Easier for them than having to pay it down the line.
Absolutely. We have a caller that's trying to get in.
Oh, great.
So let's take this call. Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning to you.
Hi, good morning.
And how are you?
I'm good.
How is the dog?
Very well, sir. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Now, I'm listening to this conversation. A long time I didn't call, but I'm listening. Sometime, you got to give the brain a rest.
Yes.
But I think we're going into a different phase. No one could ever doubt that the government is trying it. I don't think any other government would have done what this government do in terms of how you're managing to keep this country going. I know it is tough, so there is no doubt. There is something that is happening behind the scene while all this is going on. I made the point to you some time ago, and I made a request through you to the Prime Minister to use the other leaders of the region and put position paper to the World Bank, the IMF, and the United Nations. I'm very serious about that because there is something I'm looking at. Now, if this thing continue, the situation continue, many countries in the Caribbean is going to go to a lockdown because commerce is coming to a head, and we cannot allow commerce to come to a head. It is coming to a head. If we cannot transact, our revenue is going to be contracted. Young people are getting older, and people are becoming poor if they doesn't find the money to spend. So it's affecting the economy very, very seriously. The young people, by the time this thing is over, the 18, the 19, the 20, what time would they have to put their life together and to prepare for the future in terms of their old age from 50? So it's something that we have to take very, very seriously. And I don't know how the government is going to do it, but I'm saying again, I think we should put this position paper to the IMF and the World Bank, the IMF, very, very swiftly, very quickly. It may sound silly. It may sound silly, but if you think on it very seriously, we do not have a choice because you see, we don't control the world economy. We have to use the world economy for our survival. And if the larger countries is under that kind of pressure, it only says that we'll be under more pressure. We have to ask them to help us to keep us going because they have the money. They could print money. We can't. They could say, well, okay, come to a head and we'll print money to give people to survive, purchasing what we have. We can't do that. We have to depend on commerce. So it is important that we put this position paper to them. If they accept it, they accept it. They don't accept it, well, so
at least we made an attempt.
We make an attempt, but we can't feel no longer that is way out and they can't do something. No, it's not impossible. I don't ever believe that I think of the impossibility anytime. Whatever people may say that's impossibility, I see it's a possibility because my prophecy always comes to fruition. Yeah. But there is something else that I want to discuss with you, not on the air. It is that serious, but I will not dare discuss that with you on the air.
On the air? Okay.
I will want to chop you before you leave the office.
Okay.
That's serious for for the economy
Yes.
and for us, the citizens. I
Great.
can't allow that to go any longer, but as I said, I will not bring it to the air.
To the air.
There's certain
Okay.
things for the air, there's certain things that you can't bring to the air. I don't want to bring it in, but I want to discuss it with you.
Okay.
Right?
Absolutely
Please
fine.
don't go too quickly.
Yeah.
in the program.
All right. Good. Well, thank you again for your comments. Thank you for your contribution. We do appreciate, as we normally would. And of course, yes, callers, the lines are open, that you can talk about that. And how there, my friends and our listeners, Carriacou and Petit Martinique, we know it's a moment of sadness for you still. Many people are still in mourning. You have lost a really great son of the soil, a hero, a leader in his own right, someone who has done well for the constituency of Carriacou and Petit Martinique, had worked hard. And of course, he would be laid officially to rest tomorrow, God's willing, is my understanding, with the service, I think, taking place at the
mini stadium.
Leuchtturm Mini Stadium. Yes, and then into the Brunswick Cemetery, I think. So you can call, you can make your contribution towards the topic, or if you just want to say something on behalf of Brother Nimrod, keep it
We
short.
have a call on the line. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Uncle. Good morning, Mr. Bula. How are you today?
Very well, sir. Very well.
Yeah. Mr. Bula, when you look at the situation with the industrial action presently,
Yes.
I don't see the government take the right step and doing what they're supposed to do. And I always believe in principle. Because, like, if you owe someone and can't pay them, the best thing to do is to get back to the person and say, yes, I promise to pay at a time, and something come up. But sometimes I be with a home problem. But this one is not a home problem. This one is a worldwide problem where everyone was fully knowledgeable what is going on in the world. Right? And when the government is saying to the union, yes, we agree to pay you at that time. Right? But the coronavirus hit through the world. So we're just asking you to give us a little extension in time, which the union say that they understand. But if you understand the government side, right? They're not about the government say that they don't pay. They ask it's an extension. Every one of us, it happens in our life. We may owe someone, and you plan to pay the person in the mountain, you don't get paid. You expect to get paid. Because many times in 2008, 2013, many times we get paid Sorry Mountain. Sometimes we get paid on the 36th, 34th, 32nd, 34th of the month.
Yeah.
Right? So what we do, we go to the person we owe and we say to them, yes, I supposed to get money, but I don't get money. So my duty is to come back to you and tell you, I don't get money to pay, so then give me an extension time until I get the money, which is what the government did. Right? Because see, one of the years the union had to seek for the workers. Where the government had to seek for the workers and everyone in sure Grenada Carriacou back, because a lot of people who don't work in, the government has to seek for them, to help them and to reach out and to make their life better.
Yeah.
So I want to say to the union, let's have some compassion. Let's have some compassion. Yes, you will get the money. Because you know for sure, this is a government that when they made a promise, they fulfill a promise. In 2008, 2013, well, they didn't expect to get no problem because they know that the government at the time cannot afford to, they will not give them nothing. But with this government, they know. But with this government, they will get something from the government. And what the government say they will get, they will get it. Right? You see, we don't put things like as a budget. We know that we made a budget. And things that already planned in the budget. Something come up which you did not plan for, and it come there. You have to make some change in the budget, right? So if you plan to pay the person $150 that month, and when you have to make a total callback in your budget, you may have to give the person $100. So then you go back to the person and say, well, I won't able to give $100. I won't able to give $150. We $100 so. Which is the right thing to do. You promise them to go back to them and say, what I will give you is $100. And the government did that. So I believe both parties, the union leaders should hear and know and understand, which I do believe they understand the situation. So let's come together and for the peace and stability of our country. Let the union and the government come together and work for the betterment and development of our country. So Mr. Bola, Mr. Uncle, you all have a wonderful day. God bless you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, you too. You know, he brought up a very important point. that government has to look out for the well-being of all of Grenada, all of the citizens. So public servants plus. And I say it's an important point because only recently, Mr. Bola, I'm not sure if you are aware, Real Value Supermarket had to let go of 100 workers.
Well, I know they had downsides, but I wasn't sure of the numbers.
100 workers, and they gave them a few months severance with the surety that, if things get back to a place, not normal, but a place where they can sustain it, then they would do that.
Okay.
And I say this to say that these are now people who are on the breadline, people whose interest 100 workers.
I didn't realize that so many people were working. I know they have a pretty large staff because it's a huge supermarket and they try to be very professional but that's a lot.
Yeah, because you have your baggers, you have your cashiers, you have people packing the shelves, you have people working in the storeroom. It's a lot of people. And these are people whose interests now government must seek and whose interests government must look into, because you're looking at people who are now probably just the sole breadwinner in their home.
But they are also looking towards government for some kind of answer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And these are all people now who are out there going to say, okay, well, you know what? I'm not going to wait on Real Value. I'm going to try my best to see how I can make myself useful, within the time that I'm there, because money doesn't sit down and wait until time for it to be used again, and the money does just disappear. Before you spend $100, Mr. Bola, one day, with $100 going, and you reach home and you sit down and you check in, Lord, well, what go and buy there? You understand? So people are now looking at ways in which they can make more money. So these people are now on the breadline. These people are now looking to government to see how they can, single mothers, people who are taking care of their elderly parents, people who don't really have another alternative, because we have to also understand that these jobs cater for people who are on the lower part of the educational scale, who don't really have the know-how to do much else. And that is a fact. These are the people that have to be considered as well. So when we out there beating our chest and jumping around and talking about, we 4% is ours, I think it's a little bit inconsiderate. And I use the word loosely, and I use it with no regret, because there are people out there saying, is we 4% and we want it? Not taking into consideration the many people who want to say, is my salary and I want it. You understand? It's not even a laughing matter.
Well, they're not incorrect to say it's my salary and it's due to me and I want it. They're not incorrect in saying it. They're just a little bit inconsiderate. But they're not incorrect because it is theirs, really. It belongs to them. It was negotiated for and agreed upon. And I think we have a caller coming in.
We do. Good morning, Mr. Mills.
Oh, he's making
Hey, I don't tell you already.
The lady does see your face.
Captain Bola.
She does see your face in the call. So she know you. How you doing, my brother?
I'm fine, and
well,
like American Brandy just hanging in there by the God of grace of Almighty.
Yes.
So I was listening to you the other time. I go to call in about it, no.
You say you're not disturbing that train.
You mustn't do me that,
What I do you again?
I was dreaming that you come in here.
Oh, God. Well, what are interfering with you in your dream, Father? Is not a good thing? I shouldn't be interfering with you in your dream. That is not a good thing at all,
That's not a good thing.
No, man, I don't want to interfere with you. I prefer to interfere with you like no when we're doing the radio or when you're sleeping. I don't want to come in your dream.
This calling me out, Mr. Mills.
Oh, Lord.
Mr. Bola, you really have to go in Carriacou.
No, I will be going to Carriacou, don't you worry. But I also had to tell you, accept my sympathy on behalf of Brother Nimrod. I know it's a sad time for the people in Carriacou.
Yeah, minister leave us.
Yes.
They having something for him. Sometime again during the week,
Yeah, I know tomorrow should be the funeral.
Tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, well, tomorrow, I heard it, It's that I was going to tell you.
Yes.
Yes. Well, you ain't everything, man.
But I'm keeping all my 4 ears open.
Yeah?
4 ears I have, I'm keeping all 4 of them open.
How come you have 4 ears and not 2?
Well, God give us 2, but you have other parts of everybody you could make into ears. your nose is like your ears, you know. How you smelling thing, you know, smell thing to know it, you know.
I don't feel it, man.
Well, you could feel it. Okay, there's another way. You know, sometimes somebody give you something, you feel it, you have it in your hand.
Yes,
you watch it with your eyes. They tell you what it is, but you still smelling it.
I'm on drop off with a fire coal in my hand. I didn't see it, and I feel it, and I just felt it when I feel it.
You understand?
Because it burn me, man.
Yeah, so then you smelling too. You going to know what it is they give you there. So we have all those senses, man.
So, Miss Duncan, you okay?
I am. I'm very good, actually.
Well, once you okay, I ain't so care about myself, no? You're laughing at it.
You have to care about yourself.
God.
You can't care about people more than yourself, you know.
No, well, let's see what you are doing it.
With me? Okay.
Yes,
I
that is a
appreciate
very nice
that.
lady.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That'll make me smile for the rest of the day.
She blushing already.
You what?
She blushing.
She blushing already?
Yes.
Well, she have all right to, you know.
Yeah.
Yes, that she will see right.
You tell it the other. If you tell she cock up she shoulder like you know like when two cock raise up the feathers behind the neck when they want to fight.
Mr. Bola, leave her alone for me, please.
Thank you,
I don't
Mr.
interfere with
Mills,
her. Just telling you about her.
No, it's alright, no problem. You got to know somebody very, very care about her.
Okay.
Thank you
Which
very
is
much.
Mr. Curtis David Mills.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. But I still knew you showing up there, Miss Duncan.
But
This 270.
So, Brother Bola,
Bro.
as I tell you already, you will tell me when,
Of course you will. And it's very soon. Let's just get all these issues out of the way, you know, they bury my brother and, you know, things settle back down and we could come up and spend 2-3 days, get some work done and look for you.
Might tell me you might come up for the funeral.
Well, tomorrow, please God, we ain't having no program because we're looking at that possibility. We're trying. The boat ain't working tomorrow, but we're making some arrangements.
So us is not on the water?
Not tomorrow, please God, I understand.
no, Tuesdays they don't go up.
They don't work on a Tuesday.
I'm not sure if they'll make exception because of the situation, but as far as we know, for now, we're not making any pronouncement. So nobody will go and say Mr. Bola say or Miss Duncan say that Osprey don't went up in Carriacou tomorrow. Based on regular schedule, they do not go up to Carriacou on Tuesdays, but we don't know if there will be any changes.
If I want to know the Osprey, I call 8126-440 or 443.
You all right?
Well, you will call and find out for us.
Yeah, you don't Mr. Bola used to travel like that like a car, you know?
Yes.
Yes.
You up and down on the sea. Well, that is your road. From Carriacou to Grenada.
I was walking in Grenada that time.
Ah, I see.
You didn't know that, eh?
No, that part I didn't know.
Yeah, I was in Grenada, I was walking down there. You was not spread like a car, man.
Okay. Okay. Well,
no, man, Mr. Jack Sampson from John Angley.
John Angley. I know the place, but I ain't sure I know the man. Jack Sampson?
Yes.
Yeah, Sampson used to be a builder.
Yeah, I was walking with
a kind of red skin, Douglas looking kind of guy.
Yeah, you have it there.
I know Samson now, man. It's a lot of people and a lot of things I know, you know, but sometimes when the people just tell me, it doesn't click one time.
Okay.
Yeah, man, I remember Samson, Jack Sampson.
Yeah, he's a very good man.
Yeah.
I was walking with him.
With him, yeah.
Well, Mr. Mills, we hope you have a wonderful day, but you will let you know if we're coming up. We definitely will let you know. We won't come up Carriacou and not visit.
So that means you will be coming too?
You never know.
Well, that would be the biggest joy in my life.
She planning. She
so
planning. She don't know about me yet.
You want to see me more than you want to see Mr. Bola?
No, I will tell you something. I will tell you same thing.
Boy, if you hadn't studied law, you know, she thinks she could tie you up.
I know. Same time, man.
You and Judge Prime was a good friend.
You forgetting name JP, you know? Right or wrong. Well, he ain't still not wrong where I see him, but when I want to see him, I see him.
You seen him. All right. You know, we're trying to get some more calls in and to keep the program rolling. So, again, it's good to hear you. And if things work for us, for sure, you're going to see us.
But you ain't telling me when.
Well, I told you when we're not on air tomorrow, please God, we're looking and seeing if we can make some sort of arrangements to...
Look, we're living at your home. You can give Miss Duncan a number for me. I will not be your call.
But she gave you the number the other day.
You call back and I gave it to you.
I'll tell you something. That number there ain't a cell phone.
No, that wasn't a cell phone.
All right, I'll make sure I take it again and mark it down.
Yeah, you said you should give up. You said wait. I hear tell now wait. Let go and get a paper.
Okay, Mr. Bola, just give again, please, now.
Yeah, we'll give you after the program.
All right. You give after the program, so call you, right?
Yes,
Yes.
call me again and I'll give you.
Okay, my dear friend.
All right.
All right, take care now.
You too, my friend.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Bola, I hear you asking me if that's old news. No, I was reading someone's post on Facebook.
No. The
Numbers, yeah, I know. But the post from the individual was a quote from CAFA, but I was, I take my information on a global level.
Right.
And globally, and their total is not quite accurate, and I'll tell you how I know. It's definitely more than what is there. They have 300, sorry. I'm sorry. It's a lot. I want to just hold on, Mr. Bola. I'll tell you. Grenada is on the list, by the way. We've made the list.
They finally.
Finally, but they have us as 3,000.
No, we've gone past that.
And we've gone past that. I think we're at 8 or maybe 9,000 people so far. So that's why I say it's not,
It's not fully
it's
updated.
not fully updated. But there are 359,119,782.
359 million people so far worldwide. Who has taken the vaccine. And we believe it's more than that because the figures are not
the figures are not up to date. And then they don't have all countries.
Right. And the reason why the first portion that I saw on the screen, I was asking if there's still news, it was talking about 276 million.
Yeah.
And I know since early last week, we saw 279 million and growing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was just, I guess, where the individual got their information from has not updated their source as yet either.
Okay.
But we don't want to talk about vaccination today. We'll talk about that Wednesday because I want to get back into vaccinations. Talking about vaccinations and so on, and of course some new developments and stuff that we want to clarify and all of that. But one thing, Mr. Bola, because I know time does slip out from under us, and I need to speak about this issue. Now we understand that it is a right of a worker to protest, to do whatever forms of industrial action that they feel will be most impactful for their cause.
No. You have to add something to that. Most impactful for the cause, but within the remits of the law.
Within the remits, right.
Because the law allows you in terms of protest a certain latitude.
Parameter.
Right. And if you go outside of that parameter, outside of the latitude given in the law, you could find yourself in problems.
Right. Now I want to speak as a parent first. I cannot, Mr. Bola. It is difficult for me, whilst I might understand and agree with the fact that they have a right to protest. What I cannot agree with, Mr. Bola, is, let me put it in a different way, because I want to be very careful. I don't want to get emotional about this. So, recently, teachers have been calling sickouts, which is a legal industrial action that they must take. Fine, all well and good.
That they can't take. They don't must take it.
That they can't.
They don't must take it.
Now, it's difficult for me as a parent to take my last look at $5 and send my child to school and the teacher is not in school. But what really burnt the situation for me is when parents began speaking about it, the response they were given was, well, if we notify parents, how effective it's going to be. Now, I have a real big problem with that now, Mr. Bola.
Yeah, I can understand your problem, but
big
I
problem.
understand the teachers too, because how they could notify you they go sick tomorrow?
But Mr. Bola, how could you feel comfortable in yourself as an educator? And I understand, yes, you are fighting for a cause.
I hear you too.
It's legal for you to take that route and all of that. You don't have to, but you can.
Yes.
That is difficult for me to understand. That I will take let's say for the parents who have children in kindergarten and children in grade 1 who have not really acclimated themselves to the whole school situation and all of that. I send my child to school hoping that, the teacher is there, my child will be monitored, will receive instruction and all of that, only to hear halfway through the day that it didn't have no teacher in school. And then to be given on top of that the response, oh, well, if we inform parents, how effective is that going to be?
Well, I wouldn't say how as a teacher, how effective would it be? I would say, but Madam or Mrs. or Mr., how did I know I was going to be sick the following day? So I can't inform me the day before.
No, but it's a very, listen,
I hear your point there, and it is something that every parent should be concerned about. I mean,
more than concerned.
Who is supervising when your children ends up in the school that has no adult figure in the form of a teacher to supervise and ensure that thing. So we may have to prepare our children, especially with what we see happening these days.
Yes.
Prepare them, school them in understanding that whenever they go in and such actions are being taken by the teachers and they're not to be found, they know we're wrong the school compound. Our children must know how to contact us and then take instructions from us. What should be the next move?
It also goes further to show how inconsiderate the situation is. And I want to say inconsiderate, Mr. Bola, because you have parents. Look at the 100 workers that have just been released from let go from Real Value.
Yeah.
Then we're speaking about the hundreds of thousands, not hundreds, thousands of workers in the hotel industry who have not yet really gone back into working. Then we're talking about the taxi operators, the taxi drivers, the spice vendors, the tourist vendors. We're talking about all of these people who have been adversely affected. These are the people whose children are going to school and being affected, I mean, apart from the others, you have the nurses and the teachers and whatever else. But these are the people who are making the sacrifices amongst all of the difficulty that they are experiencing. They are making the sacrifices to send their child to school only for the teacher to say to them, well, we're on strike because we don't get 4%. As a parent, if I was going through that, I would say, well, I didn't get paid since March last year, so I don't understand what your excuse is.
Well, it's a very touchy, emotional, painstaking situation. It's like tightrope walking. I have declared very early, with all of the understanding and appreciation I have of what the workers are doing, the public servants, because they have a right to the increase, I still consider it to be a little inconsiderate when you take the whole picture into view.
Yeah.
Isolatedly, just looking at the case, you can simply say, I support them, they have a right.
Yeah.
It was signed for, it was agreed to by government, and it should be given. That's when you take it just in that narrow, a very myopic view of it,
right,
looking only at the public workers. But when you expand the picture, when you take everything into consideration, when you look at the effect it has on the children, especially for the teachers, when you look at the state of the government revenues and the rationale that they have given for not being in a position to implement at this time, when you look at down the line, the extra costs and problems it will be for government to find this year's 4% plus next year's 4% plus a back pay with interest. You put all of that together, then one has to say there may have to be some other motive behind the actions that are being taken, and it cannot just be the deferral of the 4%.
Of course, because as a parent, I'm looking at, okay, I have X amount of money that is supposed to last me the month. That is how I am looking at it. I am going to send Mary to school Monday, Wednesday, and Friday because I really can't afford to send her Tuesday and Thursday. I only have money for 3 days, right? So I'm sending her for 3 days. And you would hope that in the 3 days that the child goes to school, that they would receive maximum instruction, because you know you can't send them for the other 2. Not because you don't want to, but you are not in a position where you can. And that is a reality for a lot of people in Grenada right now.
Many, yeah.
It is a reality. I am unable to do it. Financially, I am unable to meet that need for my child. And for some parents, I can imagine the burden. You get up in the morning and you're crying, tears in your eyes, because you are hurting as a parent because you cannot meet that basic need for your child. And it has happened. It is happening right now with parents in Grenada. Some who have sought assistance from government, some who have turned to entrepreneurship, some who have just been doing little odds and ends here and there to make a little money to feed their family. That is a reality. You know, and it's not by their own fault. Nobody predicted the pandemic. It was not something that anybody could have really prepared for. You know, so it's not a fault of theirs. But imagine I planned my 3 days to send Mary to school, and 2 out of the 3 days when I could pay to send my child to school, they take a half day to go and jump up in the road and beat drum. They take a period to go and ring bell. They decide they're calling in sick. No, it's a real thing. We laughing and we singing at it, Mr. Bola, because it's funny when you look on social media and you see big hardback people sitting in front gate when they're supposed to be instructing children, ringing bell and making nonsense. And you as a parent know that you're struggling so hard to send your child to school, and that is what is happening in the schoolhouse. It is a very vexing situation.
Well, it is, yes. I do agree with you. It is a vexing situation, but how do we quell it? Do we have money to pay them? No.
We have a caller on the line. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Duncan. My name is Mr. Bola.
And how are you, sir?
Not too bad.
Well, it is a joy to hear your voice again.
Yes, I just call in to throw in my 2 pence, or maybe weigh in the discussion at hand, you know.
Yes.
And so on. And I just want to join with those who have demonstrated, who have shown the understanding in supporting the government's position. And, you know, I cannot find words to describe it. I am baffled, you know, by the action of the continued protest action by both public officers and teachers, but especially the teachers, and the action that they have contemplated, that they have decided upon. Hold on, please. Oh, what? Take him away, please. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm a little grand in the back. Yes. And, you know, and I really wonder, because I myself have got myself involved in the debate on the street corners. And sometimes I try to help clear up some people who I believe do not understand, because I get the impression from some of them, and I find too many of them, that like if the money is supposed to be coming out from the politicians' pockets to pay rather than the country's ability to pay. And then some go about want to make the comparison with the repurchase of the
shares from WRB.
Shares.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to tell them this, that you see, you're talking about 2 completely different expenditure.
Yeah.
You're talking about a one-off payment, you know, to repurchase a
capital asset.
A capital asset. And then you're talking about a recurrent expenditure. An expenditure, once that is incurred, has to be maintained, has to be sustained every month thereafter. And so I ask them, let's look around. I mean, let's be real. Let's look at Grenada, let's look at the rest of the world, but let's confine it to home. I mean, do you believe that we have presently sufficient economic activities to sustain a 4% increase, right? A $13.2 million increase on a monthly basis, right? Do you believe that we have sufficient activities to maintain that, you know, on a monthly basis? And the reality is no. I mean, the answer to this question would be no. So all the government is asking for is a deferral, right, of the payment. Not that they are not going to pay because it's a contractual arrangement. We understand that. But it's the country's ability to pay, you know. And even, you know, I'm not even agreeing with the government in terms of giving them the time, you know. A lot of people will say, well, you cannot leave it as an open-ended case or matter. You should give them a date. But since that we are living in uncertain times, you know, we are not sure of how things might unfold. And let's hope. I am an optimist. I look on the bright side of life. I always believe that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, or there will be a light at the end of the tunnel. But at the same time, to give them a date, because I know if that time comes, and the government is not able to pay again, well, maybe it might lead to a bigger protest. But I also believe that it was unreasonable to ask and trying to press for a time. And if the government say, let's say December, or let's see what happened by December. And if it's possible, if we see the light at the end of the tunnel before that time, we will try to facilitate the payment. Yeah. But when you're saying pay us by May, June, come on, that's just not been realistic. Yeah. That's just not been realistic. And people who you expect to know better, teachers who are supposed to be instructing our young ones, you know, and so on, and who's supposed to have a higher level of understanding than that. You cannot use your maybe personal vendetta or your rancor or something, that personal defeat against an individual or a group to hold the country at ransom. And unfortunately, you know, there are some ordinary people who really do not understand. And who the government, as I say, as I heard the Prime Minister said in the past, that the entire constituency, the whole of Grenada, would be part of his constituency. So he's not just responsible for maybe St. George Northwest or just a particular group of workers, maybe teachers or public officers. The whole of Grenada. So what's about the vulnerable? You know, what's about the people who cannot help themselves? What's about the people with that are under the seed program? What's about the Imani young people, the different programs? Come on, let's have some consideration here. And I met a teacher who he's a good friend of mine. And I asked him, I said, are you part of this thing? And he told me no. When he said no, okay, as much as everybody would want more money and he would welcome his 4%. But he understands clearly that the country is not in a position at this point in time to pay the and therefore he was not, well, he said he was being bashed by some of his colleagues for not doing as they say, you know, and so on. So, but I'm saying all of this to say, we have to put the country first. We have to look at the country and the country's ability to make certain payments, right? And so on. We have to be looking at our young ones. Yeah. People live what they learn. Children live what they learn. I've heard some of the remarks coming from some of our teachers, and I say no wonder why this society is what it is or how it is. Because when you hear remarks coming from some of our educators, one wonders. Yeah. You know, on public pronouncements, well, they don't go on a loudspeaker and say it, but on the street corners, close to bars, on the block, you would hear, I mean, very discouraging, statements coming from these people. You know, because they are the ones who, together with parents and guardians, help shape the minds of these young people. You know, and if we behave the way we behave, what example are we setting? We have to put the partisan politics aside, and we have to look at the country, look at the overall development of the country and our people. You know, I really do hope that good judgment and common sense would prevail, and that they would cease the protest action and work together with the government, right? Maybe go back to the negotiating table. Another thing is that sometimes when you refer to the labor commissioner or that department, right? People sometimes, the same public officers who sometimes they purport to be advocating, on whose behalf they purport sometimes to be advocating. Sometimes they turn around and say the most disparaging thing about some of the same public officer. You don't trust the labor commissioner, or you don't trust that person, and that kind of thing. Come on. And do you have reason to mistrust? Just because people might be exercising reason and say, okay, we don't think it is reasonable at this point, or what have you, or they might try to conciliate. You know, come on, but this is about Grenada. This is not just about a group of people. And I find public officers and teachers especially extremely inconsiderate and selfish. Come on. Let's take a different approach to this.
Man by nature is a selfish being, eh?
Eh?
Man by nature is a selfish being. We have to learn to control it. But generally,
to some extent, yes, I would agree to some extent. But come on, let's be considerate here now, man.
Yes.
Let's be considerate. So, my appeal, Mr. Bola and Ms. Duncan and Grenada, those who might be listening to my voice, is that we exercise tolerance and patience and show good judgment, demonstrate good judgment. You as being in the position that they are in, as I say, as teachers, remember they are the ones, as I say, together with us as parents, helping to shape the minds of young ones. And if you show such lack of understanding and such lack of consideration, then what's the message are you sending? Thank you.
Thank you too. Well said. Very well put together. I don't know if I could have done it as good as this caller did, and we appreciate that. And I just want to reiterate that no one, I don't think there's any Grenadian or anyone definitely not us on this program here, who is anti the workers getting what they deserve.
And nobody's saying they don't deserve it.
They
either.
don't deserve it. It's just that the timing is not appropriate due to the pandemic. We do have
a caller on the line. Hello, good morning.
Oh, yes. Good morning. Sorry for coming back. But my good body. Good morning to you, sir.
Yes, sir.
From where Saturday?
Yes, that's St. Patrick's, man.
Good body. Remember, a very, very long time. Very, very passionate. Now, I'll tell you something. I feel, if you observe, that I'm not discussing those two subjects. I'm not discussing those two subjects because I don't want to mash any corner at all. Don't care how hard the corners might be, I don't want to mash it. My focus is on humanity. That's where my focus is. My focus is on leadership. My purpose is roles and responsibility, accountability from leaders to the citizens of the world. That is where the problem is. Are we talking about a new world financial order? People are still working for $5 and $6 and $7 a month. When land price has moved from 1 cent a square foot to up to $60 a square foot, and the young people have to buy this from 18 beyond in order to live their lives. They have to save to get there. What would they save to keep the bank, to keep commerce going? So we're not talking about those things. These things is too big for us. We're fighting to match these big cons that tell the world leaders, the industrial world, that look, you are creating the problem for us. It is very easy to print $3 billion to pay the arm manufacturers to make weapons to kill the very people that we say we love, and we don't want them to die in pandemic. But we're going to pay these billions of dollars, and these monies goes in blocks. And you come down to the ordinary folk on the ground. Salaries still remain low. Food costs continue to rise, and all the things we have to buy, like the stove, the fridge, whatever it is, the cost is going up, and we have to purchase it to survive from the small salary. This is where my focus is. And I'm sending that clear message to the industrial world, the leaders of the industrial world. You are doing this thing to the small countries. The United Nations, the World Bank, the IMF, set a new world financial order as it relates to human survival. Give people the ability, give them the need, the things they need to survive, to take care of the life which they have in them. It is not the money in the bank. It is the life that you have to care. And you must get the means to care this life. That is where my focus is. And I'm saying to our leaders in the Caribbean, rise up and speak this language to these leaders. Let your voices be heard. I said power is not in size, but power is in ability. Let your ability show in these world bodies that, look, we have a responsibility to represent our people here, and you are doing this. No, we are not going to tolerate it. We want our people to survive because we're buying all our needs from you. And trade is not doing it in an expeditious way for us. We have to speak to these people. Forget the teachers and the government. Let us talk to these people over there and tell them, look, you are the world's problem. And stop doing that to us. And I want to hear our leaders speak that kind of a language in these world bodies, so we could get rid of the problem we have here, the financial and economic needs problem we have here. We could get rid of it. That is the language. I don't want to bash teachers. I don't want to bash government. I want to talk to the leaders over there to tell them, look, you are doing this to us. And I want our leaders to raise their voices. Stop smiling at people in these bodies and says, look, our life is at stake here. We are not going to tolerate these things that you're causing on us any further.
All right. Thank you so much for your contribution.
Bye-bye.
All right, we have a comment on the live video, and it reads, to sustain your country, we have to learn to take a little and live long, or eat all today and starve tomorrow. Life is a balancing act, Mr. Bola. We know that, even in our personal lives. And it doesn't differ for a country. As a matter of fact, we see our country as budgeting a household, because you are taking into consideration everyone that lives in it and everything that happens within your country, and it's a balancing act. Something has to be sacrificed for something else to be addressed, and you have to look at it in that way. But Mr. Bola, I don't want in any way for people to believe that we are bashing. We're stating facts. What we are saying
being as
is
objective.
stating facts. And if for some reason you feel offended, then maybe what we have said has fallen in your pot in some way, shape, or form, and you are guilty of something that we have stated. But what we are stating here is undisputed facts. These are things that are happening that you can see that cannot be. It can be challenged, but of course, it will be proven right because it's a fact. Yeah. Now, at the end of the day, Mr. Bola, with everything that is happening, and that's why we say inconsiderate, and when we use the word inconsiderate, everybody looks at inconsideration as something that is so negative that you say somebody's inconsiderate and you just spewed some insult on them. But when you look at the situation holistically, Mr. Bola, as you said, and not myopic, not looking at just one factor, that the 4% was promised and it wasn't given to them in 2021. Let's not say it wasn't given. That in 2021 we were asked for a deferral because they got it in 2020 when people were at home, when people were out of jobs, when people did not know where their next meal was coming from because our country was on lockdown. Public servants received their 4% increase and their salary in full and on time. And I want to make that statement because these are the things that you are not hearing. You're hearing, they asked us to defer in 2021, but you didn't say that we got an increase in 2020 when things were hard for a lot of people. You understand? So this needs to be said, and we need to regularize that kind of conversation. We need to regularize, they're fighting for the 4%, and industrial action, and if we inform parents that we don't come into school, how effective is it going to be, our industrial action? What we need to regularize is a conversation that while most people in the country were suffering in 2020, public servants got an increase, got full salaries, and got it on time. When our revenue was at 40%, public servants got an increase, got their full salaries, and got it on time. These are things that you are not hearing people state, and these are facts.
And all that has been asked for is a little sacrifice, a little delay in you getting what you are due to at this time and taking it a little later down the road.
And they can't say, and it's unfair for them to say that government doesn't honor their promises, because that is what I've been hearing. Government.
Well, I've heard it on more than one occasion. I've heard Mr. Marvin and the president of the Teachers Union in a speech saying government never honor. But I've asked the question, from 2008 to 2013, what had happened to the mouths of these people? Yeah. There were no salary increases. There were no negotiation. I didn't hear a drum roll. Yeah. I didn't hear a pin fall. Nobody said anything. There was no protest. Everybody just went about understanding fully that the government couldn't pay, not looking forward. But the NNP came back into government in 2013 and implemented a salary increase in 2013.
And they met a worse situation,
Yeah, 2 months after they got back into office. Implemented, I think, a 4%, was it 4.6, I'm not sure, salary increase that the previous administration negotiated for and put the implementation date for after the election. Yeah. And on top of that, went about to raise and get over $44 million to pay back pays for all the years that they did not get increased salary for. Yeah. Yeah? And they continue to get increased pay all the time. So far, from 2013 to now, this administration has given 5 salary increases, $44 million in back pay, and in some instances up to $2,000 in gratis one-off payment for the period that the country was under structural adjustment program.
So it's unfortunate.
Very unfortunate that people think that the government, this government is an anti-worker government. Yeah. Absolutely false.
I've heard them say, and we keep hearing that, and I want someone on the next, and I challenge this is a challenge. I don't want to do it because before I open my mouth, they go say it's the NNP. So I don't want that. I want objective individual to call and ask the question. You are saying that government doesn't honor their promises. But the agreement stated that the increase would begin from the year 2020, January, you would receive your 4%. Was that not done? Was the condition in which the country, when you signed the agreement, could you see that the government was able to pay? Can they answer these questions? And then it would give us a very good idea of where they are thinking.
Maybe they could
put them on the spot. But nobody's putting them on the spot. Nobody's asking the important questions that need to be asked. When in 2020, is it not true that public servants received their 4% increase? Is it not true that whilst people in the country were suffering and not knowing where they are going to make ends meet, that public servants received their salaries and received it on time? Are these things not true facts? And then let's start the conversation from there and move on to, well, if you are saying that one thing that bothers me, Mr. Bola, is when people make general statements. Or they could afford to pay. Or they could afford to pay.
But they're not proving it. They're not saying
But they cannot prove it. But a general statement. Or they could have, and they say it so confidently. Or they could afford to pay. But nobody challenges and said, well, okay, if they are able to pay, if you as a union, you're saying that government is able to pay, then show us exactly where the money is going to come from. Point by point, show us where every month government is able to pay $1.3 million in increases. We have to come away from this thing where somebody is telling us, yes, that person able to do it, but they cannot show us how. We have to come away from that. If you are saying as a union that government is able to pay the 4%, then show your base. You don't even have to show the general public. Show your base, at least. Show them where government is going to get the money from. And if you can find, a matter of fact, if they could find where the money coming from, then they shouldn't have a negotiating problem in the first place. But it's the truth. If you can tell government where they're going to get the money from, every month the $1.3 million added to what the 4% that they got in 2020, if they can show government exactly where the money is coming from, then they shouldn't have a negotiating problem. Because if government is saying to them, well, we do not see where we can or how we can meet this need, and you could see where government could meet the need, but you choose to strike instead of show government where they can meet the need, then you're at fault. You had to take blame for that.
Maybe you do. Show the government where the money is. Mm-hmm. They say it could come out from the same place with the other. And that's a strange way of thinking. Eh? A man buys a car and you say to the man, you have money. Mm-hmm. You say, how? Because you just buy a car. Mm-hmm. But he had money he doesn't have. Because he used the money he had and bought the car. Mm-hmm. So, he has a car, he doesn't have money. Mm-hmm. Or you build a house, so you have money. But you had money then. Mm-hmm. You used it, now you don't have. And
not only that, the source of funds in which he used to buy the car may not even be able to meet the need of what he has to pay for. Which is exactly the situation that we have right now. And it's unfortunate that the students have to be going through this because they've come from a hard year in 2020 when we were put at a disadvantage with COVID, the lack of availability of network for them to use online classes, the lack of devices for them to access that for both teachers and students. They've come from that into scheduled schooling, into going back on lockdown again, into going back on scheduled schooling. So they've missed a lot.
Quite a lot.
For this situation, which is rather unfortunate, for them to go back to missing a lot. Because guess what? All that is happening is that the teachers are making their jobs much harder. Because now you have to go and play catch up. if you really care about the students that you are teaching, if you are doing things that you are supposed to do as a teacher, your job has just become harder, because now you have to go and play catch up. You have to now meet the needs of the students who have been disadvantaged, not from just by this industrial action, but from the industrial action of 2018 plus COVID plus now. So we have students who are almost a year behind. Then we have to think about the situation of that you are passing a student who you have barely helped onto another teacher because you're putting them up in a grade. You know, and it's a very unfortunate situation. So no matter how you look at it, the students are disadvantaged. You know, you have students going to school, they running all about the place because no teacher to monitor them.
No one to monitor and supervise.
You have children going to school, you don't know if the child eat breakfast this morning, you don't know what their living situation is, they don't know how they're coping mentally with the strain of COVID. Imagine us as adults having a difficult time dealing with COVID. Imagine these children who have come from this lockdown, who have come from seeing their parents struggling to go to school, to have to... I mean, it's really... as a parent, I am very burdened by this situation. And my children are not really directly affected because I just always say I could sit at home and teach my children any day.
Well, do that open our school.
It could happen any day, Mr. Bola. So my children are not disadvantaged. And where the teachers fall short, I am able to pick up. You know, but there are a lot of parents who cannot do that.
But you open a school, you won't only teach your children, you know, all the neighborhood children.
Mr. Paula, if you fund the school, I will open it.
But I just told you earlier on, don't ask me for $100, bro, because I don't have money. Now you're telling me about fun school.
Well,
somebody put up a long thing.
You're behaving like them teachers. You're telling me to do something, but you're not telling me how I
because you've said you can teach your children.
I can't understand you.
So I'm saying to you, start it, and maybe you can get the neighborhood children to coming as well.
Okay. Now, the individual is saying, remember the good book tells us in the book of Revelation, the time will come when a bag of gold will buy a loaf of bread. The World Organization and the world's power countries don't have consideration of people and objectives, and their objectives are to control and I guess are for control and power. Mr. B, remember your vitamin C. I don't like that cough I heard.
Well, I do have a cough. I agree with the individual, whoever they are. And it's a very kind of dryish cough, which is something I've been working with for a long time. So I don't want people to have any misgivings and think it is because of COVID or anything. It's a cough that has bothered me for quite a while. I've been using a lot of herbs. There was one senior lady who told me I must always draw some of this seasoning thing big time. And use. And I used it well, and for a while it had kind of gotten under some level of control. But now I realize it's back on me again a bit. So I'm restarting the use of my big time and lemongrass and you know, a lot of those things again. But thank you for your concern. I appreciate whoever it is that has spoken about it. Thank you very much.
Well, Mr. Bola, we're running out of time. Of course, as a matter of fact, we are out of time. But I just want to say that in all of this, we have to just take a step back. I think we are too heated and too involved emotionally in certain situations and too politically driven by certain things that we don't take a step back and look at the situation holistically and look at all of the people who are being affected, all of the people who this entire situation contains, because it's not just public servants that it contains. You know, it contains parents, it contains students, it contains the wider population, because these are the people that government must now consider. You know, it contains the private sector, it contains the public, it contains almost everybody. So we have to look at it and look at the string of people that are going to be affected by our decisions, because sometimes we think when we do things, we're doing it selfishly, meaning that we do it for ourselves. It doesn't affect anybody else. But when you really sit back and you look at it, you realize that the repercussions of our own actions and our own selfishness, it kind of runs down on other people, unsuspecting bystanders get affected by it as well.
Collateral damage, they call that.
Absolutely. So, Mr. Bola, any final words before we
Well, I just want to say to everyone, thank you again for being a part of the program. Whether you've called, you've sent a message or so. We never can read all of the messages that come up, but we just, randomly pick one or two and read them. We thank you for participating. We do read them ourselves. While we don't always get the time to air all of them. We hope that you will continue for the rest of the week. We are most likely off air tomorrow, God's willing. It's the funeral of Brother Nimrod. We can't say to everybody go to funeral because we still have to obey the protocols. We still have to be considerate. The Ministry of Health theme still has certain protocols in place in terms of numbers in any one space, the gathering. And I think that's part of the reason why they're using the mini stadium, so that people can be socially or physically distant. And so, but at least whatever thoughts you may have the rest of today and tomorrow, and especially the people of Carriacou and Petit Martinique, we mourn with you, we empathize with you, his immediate family. We say, may his soul really rest in peace. He has done well as a servant of the people, and he would always be remembered. He's gone, but he won't be forgotten. So we continue, every one of us, enjoy the rest of today. Try to make the best of it. If your morning wasn't started good, I hope that Hard Talk did say something or do something to put you in a better mood. And of course, rest well tonight, back out tomorrow with full purpose to serve your country and help to make it a better place.
All right, guys, so we have come to the end of our program for today. As we say here every day, in whatever you say and whatever you do, be safe and be secure. We always want to be talking with you, but we don't ever want to be talking about you. So please do enjoy the remainder of your day and stay tuned for the National Report. It's been wonderful, guys.
Government advised of new date for official funeral of former Deputy Prime Minister Elvin Nimrod once this has been agreed upon. We'll have the details to this story and more in the National Report. Welcome back. With the details to the news for Friday, March 12th, 2021, I am Sherry-Ann Noel. The government of Grenada says it will advise of a new date for the official funeral of former Deputy Prime Minister Elvin Nimrod, once this has been agreed upon by the family. The funeral was postponed at the request of a close family member who arrived on the island too late to complete the mandatory 7-day quarantine. The government issued a statement which said that based on a deep desire to attend the funeral in person, the request for postponement was made on Thursday night, and as such, it must respect the wishes of the family, since its role is only to facilitate an official funeral. Moving along, work is on the way and going according to plan on 3 of the 11 sites that will be rehabilitated under the EC $46.8 million Agriculture Feeder Roads project, contracted to Hanover Construction Company. Currently, there is activity in the St. George's Estate, Laborie Road, St. Paul's, and Bel Air Road in St. Mark, and 3 other sites are in the mobilization stages. Construction manager Anand Ramnaman says the project is being executed in 3 lots.
Comprises of 22 kilometers of roadway and 8 bridges. The scope entails the construction of box culverts, bridges, retaining walls, box drains, curb and gutter drains, as required to the specific locations.
Ramnanan gave a detailed review of the work presently ongoing at the St. George's Estate.
Well, currently at St. George's Estate Road, we are at a 40% completion, where we have constructed 90% of the box drain. We're in the process of constructing the box culvert, which is a 1 meter by 1.5 meter box culvert. And we have the reconstruction of the bridge, where it's going to be constructed where the existing bridge is currently. We're looking to commence the construction of that bridge by the end of next week. So overall, St. George's Estate is at 40% completion.
Giving details about the length of the roadway and drains, Ramnanan also indicated that the existing bridge will be demolished and a new one constructed that will have a wider carriageway.
Okay, at Lamoud, St. George's Estate, the length of the road is 457 meters. The new road width is going to be a 4 meter wide carriageway. The existing was 2.5 meters, and it's going to be widened to a 4 meter carriageway. The 4 meter carriageway, yes, 2 vehicles would be able to maneuver comfortably at a time. The bridge is going to be 5 meters wide upon completion, and the channel is going to be widened. Right, the existing channel right now is approximately 2 meters wide. It's going to be widened to a 4 meter to 5 meter wide channel with the necessary score protection to protect the foundation of the bridge, the new bridge.
25 men are currently employed on the project. More than 7,000 people have received their first dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine since the government of Grenada launched its vaccination campaign in February. Community health nurse Audrey Lyons, who manages the expanded program on immunization, EPI, says they have received no reports of major side effects to date.
We have not had anyone reporting any severe side effect, but mild side effects such as fever, pain to the injection site, body ache, muscle ache, headache, right? Chills. These are the major ones they spoke about, but they're minor. It can be, they just have to take 2 paracetamol or 2 Tylenol, and the symptoms will be relieved, more so within 24 hours or 3 days.
She indicated that she is satisfied with the response so far and hopes more Grenadians will choose to get vaccinated.
The Radisson's Hotel, we've been there for over 3 weeks now. We also have been at the Bruce Street Mall. The health centers, all of the health centers have been vaccinating persons. Carriacou have been doing very well. I've vaccinated over 400 persons, close to 500 persons. We've been targeting the essential workers, the healthcare providers, persons aged 65 and over, and persons with underlying conditions. And I must say that whereas there's room for improvement, we're pretty much satisfied.
Nurse Lyons appealed for people to avoid falling prey to misinformation about the vaccine and added that the official source of information should be the World Health Organization and the CDC.
We need to pay attention to the sources where we get the information from. Look at the CDC, information from CDC, Centers for Disease Control, and look for information from the WHO, World Health Organization. Some persons are out there to deter us and advise us not to take the vaccine. But for now, this is the only way now, so we can take the vaccine so that we can go back to our original position where we were before that COVID-19 pandemic. Right? Vaccination now with the COVID-19 vaccine is just the way out.
This is the National Report. The news continues after the break.
Hey, are you gonna wear your mask today? You see everywhere you go, there are rules you got to follow, so don't you say COVID-19 will delay. Take the opportunity to save your community. Don't be that guy, put a mask on your face if you're heading outside. It's your life, my life, more lives will be taken if we don't try. If you feel any symptoms, call the hotline. Stay inside until you feel fine. 6 feet away every day. Keep COVID-19 far from away. Keep Grenada safe. Be COVID-19 smart.
Welcome back. While the Caribbean Examinations Council will give CAPE and CSEC students the opportunity to defer the 2021 examinations to 2022 if they choose that option, the Ministry of Education cannot guarantee tuition space for those students at the current school or any other school past the end of the current school year 2020 to 2021. That's according to Acting Chief Education Officer Angela Finlay. The decision to have students defer was taken into consideration the Council for Human and Social Development Education.
CXC decided that they would offer that option of deferral, whereby persons, once they are registered this year, they can defer to sit in January 2022 or the May, June, July sitting of the exams. So it was extended to all member states. As for Grenada, there is a downside to persons not writing exams this year, and that has to do with space. And we will experience what is called a ripple effect, because we have students and babies, for one, waiting to go into preschool. If those in preschool don't move on to primary, then the babies can't get in. And you think of the other end of it, where if students don't move on from Form 5, then there'd be limited space for students to move into Form 1 from the primary school. So it's really a ripple effect that we cannot manage as Grenada. We do not have facilities. So for that reason, we are saying that yes, it's an option that is extended to all member states, but we are urging students, we are urging parents to do all they can to embrace what is available, the support that is being given by their teachers, by their schools, to try as far as it's possible to sit the exams in the period scheduled for this year, because as a ministry we would not be able to guarantee anyone a place to return for a second year in any of our secondary schools.
The CEO says it's not the Ministry of Health's intention to elicit fear or panic. It is simply urging that good judgment is exercised.
For some children, the best option may be a deferral, but it has to be taken in the context of what will happen for those students next year, because tuition beyond the end of this academic year cannot be guaranteed for them. So they will have to weigh the options of alternative education, alternative tuition to support students who are choosing to write exams next year. Right? They would have to think of how they would support them.
Moving along, in an effort to make the process of getting vaccinated more convenient, the government through the Ministry of Health set up a unit at the ministerial complex on Friday. Visiting the unit to receive their first dose of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine were public officers, including permanent secretaries and people who came to the ministerial complex to conduct business. After receiving the first dose, they shared with the GIS the rationale for coming forward and getting vaccinated.
The COVID-19 disease is a serious one, and as individuals we all have to not only think about ourselves but think about the persons that we come in contact with, and I believe that being vaccinated is a responsible decision. It's a decision that I would advise all Grenadians to take and to be vaccinated, because when we do that we allow our country to get back to where it ought to be. And not only that, it's also a clear indication for our love for one another, because although it's a personal decision, but it's a corporate decision too.
Clearly, we are going through a world pandemic, and the scientists has done the research, they have done the trials, they have done all the necessary work to come up with an effective remedy to solve this pandemic. And in my view, analyzing everything and looking at everything, I think that it's important and imperative that everybody take the vaccine. That's the only way we could beat this virus. All the speculation, all the naysayers, that is negativity. The real thing that we have to do and must do is to take the vaccine, observe the protocols, and that's only how we could go back to a state of normalcy.
This is a choice that we have to make. It's evident that the global situation is not improving, and so I believe that we have to decide how we are going to ride this out. And I have chosen to vaccinate today because I would like to get back to some semblance of normalcy in the future, travel and otherwise. So I think generally, even though it's a personal choice, I would encourage many persons, especially young people, who want to live their life, to choose to vaccinate.
I would say very well. Very, very well. And I have to personally commend the government for the job well done. Though there is still work to be done, we're not perfect. There's work still to be done, but I really feel that they have done it fantastically. Okay? Because we have seen still there is people that not adhere to protocols. There are still people who are traveling and still not adhere to protocols. But so far, what we have seen in order to contain the pandemic in such a manner that presently we have no cases is a very, very good venture, and I really want to commend the government, especially the Ministry of Health, the staff, across the board. Without great staff, without good nurses, we cannot reach thus far.
The COVID-19 vaccine is also administered at health centers across the state. And finally in the news, the challenges of climate change continue to be a topical issue among the youth and policymakers. In observance of Commonwealth Day 2021, activities in Grenada, a roundtable discussions on the theme Our Planet, Our Future, Fighting Climate Change Together was held this week. Details in this report from June Paul.
Our Planet, Our Future, Fighting Climate Change Together. The theme that was chosen for a roundtable discussion on Wednesday. The event formed part of activities by the Division of Youth Development in commemoration of Commonwealth Day celebrations 2021. It gave the youth an opportunity to weigh in on the effects of climate change and propose measures which can be implemented on the national, regional and international levels. Minister for Climate Resilience and the Environment, Honorable Simon Steele, told the young people present that the challenge for government is finding the necessary resources to combat the negative impacts of climate change. He added that global efforts is paramount and developed countries who are the major contributors to climate change must do their part.
We heard the discussion about which is more important. Is it agriculture? Is it water? In terms of whether it's food security, whether it is water security. It's that and more. It is our infrastructure. It is our economy. It is tourism. It is health. It touches, as I said, every single area. And the challenge that we have as government is finding solutions to these enormous challenges. We can't just pick one. We have to do all. It affects everything.
Senior Agricultural Officer within the Ministry of Agriculture, Lawrence St. Louis, spoke of the impact of climate change on agriculture and says an integral plan on the way forward is important.
For us in agriculture, climate change presents quite a challenge. I'm not going to say it's a problem. I think it's a challenge. It's something that we have to face because we have to provide food.
Caribbean Youth Environment Network representative Rahim Smith says robust actions must be taken to combat the effects of climate change.
If we don't take action now, then we will not have a livable future. And this is not, myself as activist and the other youth as activists being dramatic. It is very, 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 very important.
Locally, the issue of climate change has received significant public and political attention. Heightened mitigation efforts commenced in 2013 by the government of Grenada, who have set a target of being an example through innovation and green technology. Grenada has shown its commitment to the reduction of its green gas emissions by signing on to several international and regional initiatives and expressing commitment of a number of United Nations processes relative to climate change. Reporting for the Division of Youth Development, I am June Paul.
And with that June Paul report, we come to the end of the National Report for Friday, March 12th, 2021. On behalf of the entire news and production team, I am Sharia Noel, thanking you for viewing.